Hey, everybody, good morning. Man, it's been a while since I've done one of these things. Took a little while to get set up, but good morning. We're starting live morning hangouts, morning chats, morning talks, coffee chats, whatever you want to call it. Here we are again. Craig, how's it going?
What's up?
You got the link working. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay? Am I coming through?
I cannot hear you, but it could be on my end. Hold on one second. I'm going to change my microphone around.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I'm just going to keep talking. Just going to keep talking. See if you can hear me. Just going to keep talking. Trying to find some way of setting my camera up.
I cannot hear you.
Still.
Hold on one second. Hold on. It's more than likely it's me. Oh, I've got you muted. Wait, or no, you're muted. Somehow you're muted. And I can't unmute you.
It's strange because I'm showing is open.
There, I shared controls with you, the control panel. That didn't seem to help. All right, hold on. I'm thinking it's on my end.
Yeah, I can hear you crystal clear.
Yep, yeah, I can hear you. It is my fault. I just sent it over to my TV.
Oh, you can hear me now? Oh, yeah, I can hear the echo.
Oh, you got echo? Okay, never mind. Hold on. I'm gonna fix it up a little bit here. All right, turn that down because the microphone's pointing right at it. I might have to just use a headset for today until I get this figured out.
I guess I was thinking we were still 3 hours difference.
No, I'm on mountain time until about March or something like that. So, and then everybody shifts except for us. So all we do is change time zones. Check 1 2, check 1 2.
I can still hear you good.
Are you getting an echo?
I can hear myself in your room, but it's not that much of an echo. So,
okay, yeah, I'm trying to switch it back over to switch it. It doesn't like me changing the audio settings. Oh, it's still at HDMI. I don't want that. I want that. Save. Okay, there we go. That should be better. Check. Can you hear me?
I can still hear you good.
Okay, cool. All right, we're dialed in. I just have to have these things dangling out of my ears. That's all right. I don't know. All right. So where's Paul? Mr. Bouffleur.
I'm thinking maybe he felt the same thing I did. I was thinking it was 3 hours difference, but
you're probably right.
I'll send a tweet out and see who's out there.
Oh, was I on mute? Maybe that's why I couldn't hear you through the other speaker. Let me try. I'm going to try another audio test so I don't have to have these things hanging out of my ears. Skis.
Let me know when you're ready. I'll test it for you.
Okay, try saying something now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Did you hear an echo at all?
I can hear myself, but not that, you know.
Oh, well, that's loud. Okay. Yeah, I just need to change a couple settings here. At least I think that should do it. Crank my gain down a little bit. It's not so sensitive. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're good. Excellent tweet. Thank you. The glory days.
I guess I should have said something about it being live right now, though. Can I edit that? I don't think I can.
I'll share a link. The YouTube page so they can just watch, or should we allow people send the link for people to join?
For as many people that will probably show up, setting up the join is probably fine.
Yeah. Okay. Living on the edge. Here we go.
I know.
Move this microphone over here. Copy. Close.
So how many conferences have you been to since the beginning of the year?
3.
Wow.
Yeah, we did. Let's see. It was CES, ATD. Oh, no, just 2 conferences. I had 3 trips, but 2 conferences. So, yeah. So CES, ATD, and then I made a trip out to Litmus headquarters. Which reminds me, I still need to do my expense report.
I was actually pushing your name the other day at my interview.
Cool.
And
that went well.
Yeah, the interview actually went really well. It's unfortunately, if they come back to me and talk to me and say that I'm the person I'm going to negotiate a contract, unfortunately, but they're not. They're looking for an LMS right now. And they're actually going through this. They're going through the same situation we are with adding Workday as their personnel management software.
And that's the thing on Facebook, right?
I don't know if it's on Facebook or not. I know it's just a Workday as a company that is selling personnel software.
But it's connected to Facebook, right? Or Facebook bought them or something like that?
Could be. I'll have to look that up. But regardless, they have LMS as well. Mm-hmm. But it's supposed to be integrated into their system, but nobody's really seen anything on it. So I kind of pushed the Litmus version as well.
Cool.
See who they're owned by. It's actually Workday Incorporated. I don't see. I don't see anything that says they got bought out by them, but let's see here.
All right, I just tweeted the link out, so we could get some crazies jumping in.
If we do, you have the ability to block people out, right?
I think so, yeah. I just got to get used to using this particular system again.
Well, I am actually lucky enough to be on a kind of a borrowed Wi-Fi, so that gives me the ability to do this kind of stuff. When it comes
cool.
Now, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the IPO raised more cash than any launch in the U.S. technology sector since Facebook's $16 billion IPO in May.
Snapchat?
So, no, this is for Workday.
Oh, Workday, okay.
Yeah. The CEO and chairman is a former PeopleSoft person, so That's who they're competing against anyways. That's actually what we're replacing is PeopleSoft here. With it.
All right, so I just clicked the thing that says hide guests as they join, hide their video and hide their audio. So if you see somebody like jump in or something, okay, just remind me in case I miss it, and I'll click them in. Live streaming in HD. Yeehaw.
I wonder if I can do both. Or if that would cause a...
Yeah, whatever you're streaming at or sharing at, your video's coming through crystal clear.
I was jumping on the actual my computer version to see if I could get both, and then watch for people to come in.
Oh yeah, so your other account just jumped in, and it automatically jumped on as a muted camera and a muted audio.
But I can still see it on my screen on my phone, so that's good. That's a good test just to see if it's working.
Yeah, I'm afraid if I unmute that right now, we'll get all sorts of echo.
Yeah, well, there's no mic input, but yeah, I wouldn't try it anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have access to the control room still, so yeah, I'm just gonna sign off that one. But at least I can keep an eye on people coming in. So before people actually start coming in, I'm actually learning how to play the mandolin.
Oh, nice!
Borrowed one from church, and it's kind of easy to learn the chords. The chords are really basic finger positions, but I don't know if you've ever picked one up and actually put your fingers on it, but it is really hard to fret. I mean, you're talking about two strings very close to each other next to two strings that are very close to each other, and it's really hard to fret, but it just takes some getting used to.
It'd be like it's like playing a 12-string guitar if the neck was half the size and you're cramming all 12 strings onto a half-size neck.
Yeah, I can say that if I wasn't playing regular guitar and my fingers weren't already calloused up, it would be impossible to play it. So
yeah, it's not it's definitely not easy. Not easy at all, but it's cool. People that are good at it are good.
Yeah. You know, in noticing a lot of the stuff that's been going on, switching back to L&D, I'm not hearing near as much buzz on AR and VR lately. You seen the same thing, or am I just not enough into the mix?
No, I think, it comes and goes in waves, in our industry. I mean, people hear about it, they get tired of it until, like, I think it's dying off for one, because we've already gone through the, well, I guess we're in the middle still of the seasonal events.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so everybody talks about it. Everybody, learning tech just ended in the UK. Training just ended in San Diego. I think everybody's just kind of a little burnt out. Industry as a whole is still buzzing. If you follow all the channels and whatnot, there's still a lot of cool stuff going on. I just downloaded what the heck is the name of that book? Hold on a second. The Fourth Transformation by Robert Scoble and Shel Israel. If you want to sort of a nice condensed version of mixed realities, AR, VR, what it is, a little bit of a history on it, why it's important, what's going on in right now. It's packed with a lot of cool stuff, but a lot of it, if you've been following the industry at all, a lot of it might be old news to you, so it wouldn't be that good. But I wanted to get it just so I knew kind of what they were talking about. Because somebody asked me about it, so I just wanted to make sure I was well educated.
Well, we took my son to a impromptu comic convention, as they called it, at a library in one of the downtown cities next to us. And there was no comic books there, but they had a lot of artists and comic book representation and stuff. And they also had a gaming area where they had a VR system set up. They had a true VR where somebody was actually drawing in the sky, and then they had one that was kind of augmented, where they were climbing, but they could still, see through stuff. And it's funny because the first thing out of his mouth, there was a guy standing there kind of repping it and showing you what it looked like on the screen. But the first thing out of his mouth to almost every single person that stuffed up there was, "Oh, this is great, but it's so expensive right now. It's really expensive right now. It's hard to get because it's so expensive." And his first things out of his mouth is like the first 5 people that walked up there in front of me. And I thought it was kind of odd that, maybe that's what's keeping it back still, is that, technology tends to come down in price as people latch onto it and start building better versions and smaller versions and easier to use versions. But it just seems like VR is still, I mean, it's a price point that's really hard to attain still right now. I lost your audio.
There is it's the use case. I still don't think there's a killer app for it yet. I mean, a lot of the experiences that I've been in are cool, right? But it's not like keeping me up at night going, how am I going to convince my wife to buy one of these? It's like, it's not like that. It's like, okay. I mean, I don't have that sticker shock because I can remember back when headsets were $30,000 and complete systems were over $100,000.
Yeah.
So it to me, it's like, it's here and it's real because it's finally at a price point that is reachable. $299 really isn't that for the PlayStation VR. I think it was $299 last I saw.
Paul's looking for the link.
Yeah, I thought I sent it to him. Oh, I sent it to his Gmail.
I know you weren't finished, but I'm going to tag onto that anyways real quick.
Yeah, go for
it. I wonder if there's some type of research out there that shows, what the catalyst is for each technology. Like for cell phones, I wonder if there's a catalyst that kind of pushed it into that next level and made everybody excited about it enough that people started developing for it. Kind of like what you were saying with VR, that really grabs you and says, hey, this is something you have to have. This is something that everybody's got and you have to do it. I wonder if there's like a, going all the way back to even maybe the car. I mean, the car was something that was invented, but it didn't really catch on till almost 10 or 15 years later, to where it was something that was covered. It kept you dry, and it actually moved you from one place to another without any hindrances or getting out and fixing the car or fixing a wheel and stuff. So
right.
Almost 15 years later. So I wonder if there's any.
It's exactly the same, I think, because it was originally out of the price range of the normal person, right? It was only really the elites who could buy cars. People that actually owned property, owned homes, owned, stuff that could actually buy a car when they first came out, right? And so it wasn't a mainstream thing. There were like, cars had been around for a really long time, and there were still people riding horses. And I can even remember, even here in Arizona, in a lot of the rural areas, if you would go like drive out, go camping or something like that when we were kids, you would go into these small little towns near campsites and whatnot, and they would still have like the original little poles and things that were set up for people to, rope their horses to when they came into town to go shopping and whatnot. And people actually still, it was more of a novelty thing, right? But people still would ride their horses in and put them up there because everybody still had horses.
Looks like Paul's on. You want to unmute him?
Oh, yeah, there he is.
I mean, you don't have to unmute him. He doesn't really need to talk to us, I guess.
Oh, for some reason I can't unmute him. I think he has to unmute himself. Here, I'll share controls. Try harder.
See if I can unmute him.
It's weird. I don't know why I can't unmute him. Probably every time I'm unmuting him, he's muting him. He's trying to unmute, and we're like swapping back and forth.
Uh-oh. Anthony's in too. This could be a problem. I mean, hey, Anthony, what's going on? Oh, he's in too, so.
What's up, A-Man? I can't unmute him either. Those settings are totally screwing me up. I'm going to go turn those off.
Oh, you know what? I found him.
Hey.
There we go. I just found a button.
Hey,
it's
there's
called
Paul.
Show in Broadcast. I had to turn that on. So now you're good.
Does that mean you can hear the dulcet tones of my voice?
Indeed, we can. At least I can.
I can. I can as well. I mean, yay.
The Four Musketeers back together again.
Four Musketeers.
Wait, did you actually build a cubicle in an office?
Okay, so let me explain this. the offices that they had at the end of our building were not soundproofed. And as you can see, I've got a microphone, so I do a lot of the recording for our courses. So instead of actually soundproofing the walls, what they did is they just built a cubicle inside a room that has really thin walls. So
Nice.
everything's blocked out on the sides, but the ceiling is still got like gaps. So anybody that's next to me, if they're on a conference call, I can hear.
Excellent. That's a good looking roof.
Looks like they stuck you in a closet,
Maybe
basically.
asbestos, I'm not sure.
It does. It looks like a very small closet. Paul, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's been a little bit crazy here with baby and all that kind of stuff, but I'm coming out of the woods and everything, so I'm starting to actually do work and all that good stuff. So we're got a conference running that I'm kind of supporting video stuff in the background on, and so it's been staying busy, but lots of fun. So
yeah, nice. I had no idea you were with Train for 18 years. That's epic.
yeah, I know. I get the feeling that they're kind of trying to push me out of my comfort zone and everything too. So they're trying to make me do some stuff that I'm like, God, can I just sit around here and make some stuff and do all that kind of stuff? And they're pushing me the people leading type of direction. So that'll be something new for me this year, I think. So
awesome. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, I love that they've just given you the opportunity to lead and to try some creative stuff in the training realm.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. The problem is I got a lot of people that have been with the company for longer than I have that I'm working with, and so getting them to try something new, is, and it's not even that new stuff. Like, hey, what happens if they go out and Google and find something and it's not the right thing? I'm like, well, teaching opportunity right there, but I just don't want to. I want to spoon feed everybody everything still, and so those are the battles that I'm fighting right now. But it's fun, teaching old dogs new tricks. So
yeah, for sure. My favorite video trying to explain to people about communities policing themselves is the heavy metal umlaut. Have I shared that with you guys?
I don't know if you shared it, but I'm seeing it.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's outdated now, obviously, because wikis aren't like all that hip anymore, but
Right.
the guy does a fantastic job of using that to just explain, how it is that we can actually participate in building and creating content, and there doesn't have to be a gatekeeper to manage and to hold everybody's hand, because if everybody's involved and if everybody's engaged and there for the same reasons in the community polices itself, or at least should, right? That's part of the new digital literacies, and everything works itself out. And there, every few moments when bad things happen, those bad things happen in real life anyways. At least it's exposed and somebody can jump in and fix and repair those bad things. So people get hung up on the negative instead of saying, hey, the negative happens right now anyways. It's just that nobody knows it's happening. Why not just expose it when it happens, and so that someone can jump in and fix it?
Because if you just accept that the negative happens, then it just happens. If you participate in it in any way, shape, or form, then you are to blame.
Yes, somebody can point fingers. Right.
And like I said, even acknowledging it, well, you're aware of it, so now it's your problem to fix.
Yeah. You break it, you buy it.
Sorry,
no, you're right. I think that's what turns people off.
Shut up.
What's that, Craig?
If that means I should just keep my head down and shut up, is that what you're saying?
Right. And I think that's what happens to people and I think to Paul's point, when people,
they do,
when you're doing the group stuff, right? It does shut a lot of people down. So everybody, even if they logically see the value in the whole community and sharing thing, once they know that if they say something, it can be held against them, then they stop talking at all. And that's a problem too. So, I mean, when we talk about culture shifts being necessary in order for new training methodologies or any new innovation to be implemented is critical, that's what that's all about. I mean, you can't force the culture to accept new technology, no matter how awesome, no matter how much value you place on it, no matter how great you think it's going to be. If the culture's afraid to use it, or if it goes kind of counter to what they're used to, you're stuck. I know there's ways around it, but and yeah, Paul's teaching old dogs new tricks, and that's good, but it takes time. And that's the part that everybody needs to accept. We all go to these conferences, or we hear the back channels, and we read the blog posts, and people talk and write about just do this and just do this and just do this, and bing, bang, boom, everybody's going to love you and accept you and start using the new tool you're throwing at them.
Right. But I just had a discussion. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yours is probably more positive than mine, so go ahead.
I don't know, but I had a discussion yesterday with one of my instructors about where he's going to be doing an online class, and so he was adamant that we had to send somebody a PDF, and then they print it out so that they can read it. And I'm like, well, hold on a second, He's like, well, they're gonna have to remember this, put this big long model number to their name and stuff like that. I'm like, no, it's like on their screen, And he's like, well, how are they gonna get on their computer? I'm like, well, they're gonna be participating in the class on the computer. And he's like, yeah, right. So if they're in the class on the computer, they're gonna need a PDF or this thing printed out. I'm like, oh my gosh, just read the PDF, it's right in front of them. So anyhow, those are the joys.
Learn this stuff? What are you, crazy?
Yeah, right. But he just couldn't understand that without an actual tangible piece of paper in his hand, that you can read the screen that you're also viewing the video on and everything. So yeah.
I mean that's a real struggle. It is not something that is definitely, you don't have that exclusively. We have the same thing here. We have a lot of old management that still believe that they need to get a 3-ring binder and hand everybody a 3-ring binder in these classrooms, instead of digitally sending stuff to them or sharing stuff via the screen and letting them learn it. It becomes more of a crush than it's actually a help at that point. So
yeah,
a lot of times too, it's perceived value, right? It's like if you if somebody shows up to your class, let's say you're doing an instructor-led class, it's the best design, it's a great course. If they're not able to walk away with something in their hands, they perceive that nothing has happened and that there's no value. So, a lot of times it's a small price to pay. Well, I guess depending upon your funding and how much you had to pay to make those 3-ring binders and print all those documents. But, sometimes it's easier to get budget for that than it is to spend half as much on cool new tech that would make it way better.
Yep.
Well, and even there, it's, you look at, the classic case is the public school example of, we have, just make the math simple, we have 1,000 students, they take 5 classes, so we need 5,000 textbooks, right? Well, what is the cost of those 5,000 textbooks versus 1,000 Amazon Kindles? And just using the electronic version of the textbook. That's an equation that right now, so many school districts, these are supposedly educated people, they can't do. They come up with so many reasons why. They overcomplicate that equation so much. So when you look at business and the 3-ring binder, well, okay, I could buy an iPad or I could just send them all this stuff, whatever. But, well, I'm only paying for the 3-ring binders for this course. Paul is paying for that course. Craig is paying for that course. They're not all coming out of one budget. But if you buy that iPad don't buy an iPad. That's just stupid. If you buy, an Android device that people will actually use, there you go. I say that as I'm testing software on an iPod right now. Yes, I will.
They make iPods still?
Wait a minute. Did I just see an Apple device in the hands of Anthony Altieri?
Yeah,
we just switched
I believe my eyes have deceived me.
You did, and in about 10 minutes, you'll see me bleaching those hands.
Well, I thought it was ironic that you quickly went to the word iPod, but you said Android device and couldn't think of a particular Android device that was actually good.
Because they are all so amazing. You've got your, this is the S5. I've got.
I shouldn't have started it.
I've got.
Yep, here we go.
Players over there. I've got the Nook. I've got a Note 7. It's the 7-inch Note 4. I got all kinds of bunch. Whole bunch of them. But there you go. But there again, you look at, well, the 3-ring binder. Well, that's only $10 out of my budget, and $10 out of his, $10 out of blah 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 blah, instead of $300 out of one person's budget.
Yeah. We had the issue where we print tons and tons of material, of course, but if our group stopped printing all the 3-ring binders for all of our classes and stuff, we were going to move down to a different price bracket, and but we're going to save $100,000 by not printing it out. I'm like, well, hold on a second, this doesn't make sense. I'm not going to buy stuff so that you guys can get it cheaper. It's just we're all one company, and so they don't see, okay, we're going to spend over 10 years millions of dollars less, and they.
Are you sure you're not a government
company? Have you guys ever seen
like one?
Have you guys ever seen the Lockhorn cartoons? I think they're in like Parade magazine.
Yeah.
It's a husband and wife that have had a cantankerous marriage throughout. And
yeah.
One of my favorites is the wife walks in with like all these boxes behind her and 2 bags in each arm, and she looks at him and says, "But honey, I saved so much money."
Yeah. Yep.
Classic. All right. So what were we talking about?
You want me to continue what you and I were talking about?
Yeah, so Anthony and Paul, just before you guys jumped on, we were just chatting about mixed realities, alternate reality, virtual reality, and impressions, cost points, where we think we're going with it. I was telling Craig about The Fourth Transformation by Shel Israel and Robert Scoble. I just recently finished, so I had people asking me about it, so I figured I'd better get up to speed on what those guys are talking about as far as virtual reality. And there was a few new things in there that I hadn't heard of before.
The Fourth Transformation sounds like a book that Egon Spengler would be talking to Ray about.
Yes. Yes, indeed. But it's real. It's legit. It's totally legit.
I think something the Carpathians would have done to avoid Igo the Terrible.
I think what started the conversation, though, is I was mentioning to Brent that I hadn't seen a lot of buzz around VR and AR lately like I had at the end of last year. And I was just curious what his thoughts were on, is it actually dying off, or is it on a lull? Is it because of the price point? Is it because the technology, there's no outlet for it yet? It was just we were just kind of kicking that back and forth. And I went to the fact that, there's got to be some study out there that shows that when technology gets picked up, like if technology is out for 20 years and it finally gets picked up, is there a specific reason for that technology getting picked up? And we kind of related it to the car. The car was invented, but it didn't actually get picked up until 10 or 15 years later when there were starting to be practical uses for it. So that's kind of where we were leading with that conversation. And, have you guys seen any loss of the buzz for VR, AR, or does it still seem like it's out there prevalent for you guys?
No. I think,
Okay, next topic.
part of it is, when you look at VR and AR, first of all, there's one of my favorite lines from Harry Nilsson's The Point is an arrow that points in every direction points in no direction at all. And that applies here, I think, because AR means so much that it means nothing. Or VR.
Yeah.
And VR is probably much worse than augmented reality. VR means literally nothing anymore because you're looking at, you've got the 4 levels of VR, or 5 levels, or 7 levels, or 8 levels. Depending on who you're talking to, there's different levels. I guess if you're talking to Dante, there's 7. But if, when you look at these things, okay, well, right now this is VR.
Right.
Strictly speaking, this meets the definition of virtual reality. We are having a discussion virtually with each other in a room. So I think that's part of it. Is it has been such a media buzz term for so long that it's lost steam because it's become meaningless. I think now that's not a good, it's a negative for people who, quite frankly, don't really know what they're doing. People who do know what they're doing realize that augmented reality and virtual reality, they're still slipping in different ways. I mean, for example, with the Red Cross, a CPR dummy, that's virtual reality. And as we improve the mannequins and as we add intelligence to them, which Red Cross isn't doing, but other people are, it's slipping in. We're just not calling it virtual reality. Because we know as soon as we do, I don't want to say the bottom falls out. As soon as you apply that label to it, now all of a sudden, it's this media buzz thing, and people's imaginations run wild. Yeah. Because the term just means so much that it means nothing.
I think one of the points that I thought was the most interesting in the book was just the fact that what we call augmented reality, right? Like looking through a lens or projecting content right in front of you, a heads-up display, right? Like fighter pilots or whatever. You know, your best multi-million-dollar example is that kind of technology has gotten so cheap and useful in the enterprise way before anybody's going to do it, right? Nobody will wear Google Glass because you look like an idiot wearing it, but yet they've got, when you're working, right? People in construction and whatnot will wear a hard hat because it's safety gear. You don't look sexy in your hard hat, but you wear it because it's safety. So why not strap, you know, a visor, a lens in front of it that can project content in front of you? And companies are actually doing this and have been doing it for years. So it's definitely, the augmented reality stuff is real. It's been around. There are real uses for it, but it's not going to reach commercial viability until it's practically invisible, you know, until the glasses that you buy that have the camera mounted in it can be so small and so thin that nobody notices it, you know, and being able to project it in a way that is unobtrusive, you know, but commercial uses are off the charts. I was really impressed when I was at CES last month. There was a vendor there that had the hardware, but all they did was create the hardware, and it was like little headsets. Almost, it looked like it was clunkier versions of Google Glass, basically, but made it super, super cheap. And they had some of their partners there at their booths that actually created the software and whatnot. And it was like manufacturing, logistics, field repair teams. And as I was talking with these folks, these development houses that were building the solutions for people were doing well. They had all sorts of different examples and case studies in many, many different industries where they were using these, you know, the augmented reality glasses to project content in front of people when they need it, right, at the right time. And it was, you know, it's going. We're not seeing it because it's not sexy yet. It's clunky, but it's useful. And so until it gets, I think it's the mainstream, the price still has to come down a little bit, and the tech still has to get smaller before it'll really take off and become like a thing in mainstream, which means for us in L&D, we were not going to see it for 20 years, right?
Hold that thought. Be right back.
Yeah. You know, because, you know, it's been in the enterprise for a while now. It's kind of virtual reality, and everything else is kind of coming into gaming and getting a little bit better, a little bit smaller, faster, cheaper, but it still needs to get even more so before it gets mainstream traction. And then once it gets mainstream traction and is cheap enough, then it's going to move on to the enterprise in ways that is more about people and less about the job. God, I haven't seen that in years.
No, I can't see it. What is it?
Yeah, I didn't see what it was. I saw a CD case of some sort.
Jumpstart toddlers.
Ah.
Okay.
So what is that?
Why won't this go all the way back? Oh, of course. I picked the one case that won't work. Of course. So, okay, we're gonna have to fake this one. Normally on a CD case, you can bend it back.
Oh yeah.
45-degree angle. Phone case. Now it's bright in here, so this may not capture on camera. But there you go.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have mounts. You can do that. You can mount on your dashboard and instantly have sort of a heads-up display.
Yep.
I mean, I see people do this. You know, I'm starting to see truckers do things like that. because now you can put, you know, I don't know how many of you guys have ever been in the cab of a 16 or, you know, an 18-wheeler or a 16-wheeler or however many. You know.
The big trucks.
Yeah, I mean, and well, I mean, it's, the bigger ones are the worse, really, as they get bigger. You've got dials and meters all over the place, and at the end of the day, there's only like 5 that you need to care about.
Yeah.
You know, so they have, you know, they build little things like that, put them in the dashboard so they're right in front of them, or even if the windshield is tilted enough, not tinted, T-I-L-T, there's enough of an angle to it. Oh. You can just put your phone in there, reverse the display, and you've got your speedo, you've got your air pressure, you've got your transmission, all of that is right there. I think, and here too, this gets back to, you know, I don't know if I want to say the sexiness of it. I don't know if that's necessarily it. But there's this idea that if it's not perfect, it's not at all. You know, and we see this so many things. I mean, look at the solar, you know, the debates on solar power and wind power. Well, if it can't power everything, it can't power anything. What? You know, but like things like this is where it's going to start. This is where you're going to catch. This is where it's going to catch some wind, I think. And again, you'll notice you never, when you see those things, you almost never hear it referred to as augmented reality.
No.
But what's the difference? What's the difference? Really? You know, Brent, you just went completely mute.
Semantics tends to trip everybody up in general, right? It happens in tech and it happens in our industry, and we get tripped up over it because all the other industries that are actually creating this stuff are tripped up over it and they don't know what to call it. And so we start just calling it whatever we want to call it, and then marketing departments pick it up and start using the wrong term for the wrong tech, and it becomes an issue. So it's like I think it's important for us to have these conversations to help people clarify, right? And to dial it all back and say, what are we really talking about here? You know, are we talking about the word, or are we talking about a functionality and trying to solve some sort of problem? I mean, you're right, Anthony, most people won't consider reversing the image of your screen on your phone, throwing it up on your dashboard so that it reflects off your windshield as augmented reality, but it is. If you look strictly at the term, the definition, you know, displaying digital content over the real world and augmenting reality.
Is it BMW? They've had that in their cars for years. They have an IR sensor or something in the front that if there's a deer or something, it'll show a flash on the windscreen. And again, same thing. They don't call it augmented reality. They call it something else. And I think it's going to be, you know, I forget what they call it. They probably call it early. But again, I think that's part of it because these terms have taken such a science fiction, fanciful turn that, like I said, when you think about, you know, when I say augmented reality, or like I said, virtual reality is worse, much worse. If I say, what is virtual reality, all 4 of us are immediately going to think of different things.
The thing that drives me nuts is when people talk about 360 degree, like putting your phone, watching a 360 video in a Google Cardboard or a headset and calling that virtual reality. And I'm like, no, that's 360 video. It's like, it's like advanced video. It's not really virtual reality.
So then we're back to the terminology and words being the issue then, instead of actually the technology being the issue. Because my son, that's the only way he knows thing what you just said. If he puts goggles on his head and he can see around 360, because nobody's explained it to him other than that. Are we saying that VR is just when you interact with that?
Well, but also
Anthony's linked and saying pretty much anything that's not you physically reaching out and touching something is technically VR. You know, and then who do we explain that to? do we write articles on it? Do we get people on board with it? Do we start passing people to this idea of everything's VR, and then does it just go away because everything's VR?
I think it is. This is why I've tried to back off of the arguments and the debates that we get into in our industry online and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, it always ends up revolving around semantics and perception. And so until you can dial everybody back and say, wait, before you start fighting with me about this word, let's define the word. And then 9 times out of 10, it's like, okay, we're never going to come to an agreement because you define it this way, I define it this way. So let's come up with a common definition first, then let's have a conversation about the term. And that always tends to, actually, I think for some people it makes it no fun, and so they stop wanting to talk to you about it. But it's like if we don't have the same common definitions and the same common perceptions of the usefulness of a tool and what its actual feature functionality is and what it's providing us and our learners, then we can't really go any further down the road. Unless we just all agree on one thing. So that's why I just don't worry about it anymore. If somebody wants to call a 360 video VR, okay, cool. I just kind of try to figure that out up front first. Or it's like, hey, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, is this person a 360 video is VR person, or is this person like 360 video is 360 video and virtual reality is fully immersive, engaging, interactive headset with hand toggles and painting in the virtual space type of VR person, right? And once you kind of know who you're talking to, it's easier to have the conversations about it. But a lot of times it's just easier to just say, wrap it all up and call it VR.
Yeah.
Well, also keep in mind for years what amounts to 360 video was called, 360 video, 360 video of a rental property was, that's a virtual tool.
True.
Yep.
So I think that is kind of accepted as as virtual reality now.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's why I don't really like to argue the point.
Yeah.
I just like to kind of figure out what it is we're talking about, and then people can call it whatever in the hell they want. It just makes it easier to have the conversation. I just know personally, what used to normally cause me frustration was the fact that I was thinking about it differently than the way somebody else was thinking about it. And then we just end up butting heads over stuff. And, it's the best way to not have to worry about it, right? If you're talking to a real estate agent and they were, we got virtual reality, and really they've just got some virtual walkthroughs in 360 on a YouTube channel or something. Okay, great. I'll start using the word virtual reality for that kind of stuff for you as we talk about this. Sure. Yeah.
Well, it's solving their problem, versus that. So
and it also sells them too, right? Ooh, I've got a real estate agent that uses VR. Ooh, you're a real estate agent. You should use VR too.
Yep.
Let's just call it George. Come up with a new name. We'll call it George.
Hey, there's Marco.
Yo, dudes.
Yo, dudes.
Who is that? I don't recognize that guy. Who is it? Kind of looks like me a little bit.
Is that me?
We're now fully represented from around the globe.
Yeah, it's definitely got the man for VR AR on the line.
Yeah, that's too. Right. Yeah.
I'll start
we
putting
were just
AR in
virtual
the
reality and mixed reality and augmented reality, Marco.
It's all a crock of shit. You know that, don't you?
I think that's just what Anthony said a few seconds ago.
It's guys, I told you this before. It's like mobile phones. It will never catch on.
That's right. Nobody will ever educate themselves via their mobile device. It'll never happen.
No, no.
Screen's too
no.
small.
Do you know what? And it's funny. I was in a meeting this morning with Accenture, and you know, like everyone else, they're doing this whole AR thing, and I'm just looking at them in shocked bewilderment, thinking, nowhere near viable application, not in workplace learning. You know, if you want to use your mobile device to go and scan a cup, this cup here, black sheep coffee, okay, you know, I can get an app that tells me that's a black sheep coffee, but you know what? I can look at it and tell you it's a black sheep coffee. I don't need an AR app to tell me it is. So I'm not quite getting the whole AR buzz at the moment.
Well, for that, I will say there is a great use case for that in working with people with disabilities, especially those with disabilities. I was just looking at a demo today for an application that would has item recognition or pattern recognition. It would say, okay, that's a cup, and based on the color of the contents, it would say, it might be coffee, it might be soda, whatever, things like that. So I can see those use cases, but by and large, yeah, I agree with you that if you're putting this application in the hands of somebody who doesn't have these disabilities, it's not even a novelty.
No, and we've got it. And I
QR
think we're in
codes.
danger of, yeah, QR codes. We're in danger, I think, of running before we walk. We've got to find the true use cases of this tech before we start running ahead going, it's going to solve everything. Because that's my biggest fear is, people are running ahead going, AR, VR is going to solve the world. And whilst it might be the computing language of the future, way to go yet.
Definitely some time. We have some time to mull over this stuff. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially in the learning and development industry, right?
Yeah. So was there a consensus then that the guys across the pond that it's not real?
Not real.
Yeah, Craig, I see you laughing. Yeah.
Like I said, you're echoing almost exactly what Anthony just said about 20 minutes ago. That it's so ingrained in whatever we do, anyways, that I think that people just aren't recognizing what it is, and that kind of led us back to Brent saying that we're talking about semantics again. Anthony said basically we're in a virtual reality right now. We're in a meeting room, basically, within the same vicinity of each other. We're in virtual reality right now, and that's what it's what people should be calling it, but they're not.
Anthony Altieri, how I have missed you, my friend. I've missed you.
If he keeps saying you think like me, I would accept those as training rules.
Yeah.
I
came up with a maxim, a mantra, a strap line, whatever you like to call it, last week. A couple of ago actually. And this applies to learning and development. And I did some talks last week at the Big Learning Expo. And what I was basically saying to all who would hear me in learning and development is that so this is for you, Craig. So everything that you have learned up until this point, in and around learning and development methodology, etc. I'm not saying dismiss it, Craig, but I'm saying if you are then looking to apply all that to VR, AR, don't. Clear it all from your mind. And the reason why I say that is, and it's to Anthony's point, and here's my line, the world is 3D, not 2D. And everything in L&D that we have created up until this point, even video, even 360 video, is 2D. So if we're applying everything that we've learned in relation to 2D into 3D, it doesn't fit. Because it's different rules, it's different context.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, I would totally agree. And it's like to kind of go back to what Anthony was saying earlier about what we're doing right now being virtual reality, right? This type of video sharing is like step one. It's like if you had a spectrum of virtual whatever's virtual realities or virtual presences, this is a part of that step in the right direction, right? Then the next step is, right, okay, can all of us now can we meet? Like I can see the real world that you're living in, Anthony, or at least the background of where your camera's currently facing. I can see everybody, and I can see their current world. But if we were all to then say, okay, yay, we've all gotten to know each other. Now let's go jump into a completely made up, invented 3D space that actually will react to all of us being in that space. That offers us affordances from a learning perspective that are pretty powerful. Yeah, we can be virtually here together, and we can learn, and we can talk to each other, and we can engage. And this is really powerful in just being able to do this. But then take it to that next 3D level where the 3D can be a representation of reality, or it can be a completely reinvented reality with non-player characters, right? Simulated engagement with other avatars and whatnot, or just interacting the way we're interacting now, but in that 3D space, a la Second Life and whatnot, but that's different. Like sometimes you wouldn't need to go into that 3D space. Sometimes all you need is what we're doing right now. Other times you do need to be in that virtual 3D space in order to do certain things. And to have, to understand sort of that spectrum, I think is where we're at in our industry, at least right now too, right? It's just knowing that from what is it that you want to achieve? What are you trying to do? And then what's going to be the fastest way to get people there? We learned the hard way from the Second Life experience that just tossing people into Second Life, into the virtual space, really probably isn't all that value added, because what people end up doing is just building classrooms inside of Second Life. And so you go and sit in a chair, right? And then what you're learning and what you're doing could have happened like this, the way we're doing it. And this is cheaper, this is better, this is faster, this is more powerful. So do what you need to do instructionally using one particular tool that's virtual, but then when you need to take it to the next level, go shift into the next tool that's virtual also, and do what you need to do instructionally in that space. And that, to be able to explain that to people, I think it starts to give them some sense of, oh, you can do that. Oh, that's part of the picture. Oh, we can do that instructionally. That tends to open up the conversations a little bit more and allow people to go, oh, well, I didn't think of Google Hangouts as virtual reality. I never thought of it like that. Once you start changing people's perspectives of the terms and what they're looking at, now all of a sudden you've got them engaged in a different way. You've changed their mindset. It's not just headsets only as the only solution that gets them there. It's this, these different levels, I guess, if you will, that you can engage people in the technology. I think that's the best part.
So just on that, is that a bigger piece actually? And mindset, I think, is the right word. If we think in L&D how we've moved from having single applications. So take the LMS. In the early days, the LMS just deployed content and it tracked that you started and finished. And then the LMS became these unwieldy beasts like SAP and Cornerstone, et cetera, and we got into this mindset that, we've got all these different applications. We need to bring it into one place now because that's what we need. And I'm wondering if the mindset is we need to move away from having these big pieces of architecture and going back to, okay, we've got all these little tools. Do you know what? They don't necessarily need to link up. Now, I know you're nodding, Anthony, because you're thinking XAPI because there's the data output at the back end. Which is fine. Is fine.
That's not why. I'm in full agreement with you, but not because of XAPI.
Yeah.
Anthony's also playing in one of those giant unwieldy LMSs right now, so
Okay.
he feels the pain.
But it's about the right tool for the right job. Do you know what? It doesn't matter where it sits in our global picture of learning. If it's the right tool for the right job, and to your point, almost it feels a bit like scaffolding. Actually, Brent, you were talking about. You know, your layer one is interaction or engagement or immersion or whatever it is, and then we need to go to a bigger experience. So to your point, you know, we could be talking about a process right now, and we're having that conversation, all of us, about the process, and we work through how it would happen. So that's level one. Then the level two scaffolding is, let's act that out. Oh, we're all in different countries, so how are we going to do that? So then it's about using a tool to enable us to do that. I don't know. Just a thought.
No, it's exactly right. I mean, it's the piece that we, like I said, like you were just saying, right? It's this idea that everything has to be wrapped into one thing, and we need to get a lot better at creating. And I guess in our industry, what we're calling it is blended learning, right? I mean, we talk about blended learning solutions all the time, but really now, finally, after all these years of discussing it, we actually have enough different technologies now, a large enough toolbox. As instructional designers, we're able to look and say, oh, this particular mode or this particular tool would be great. Would be great for this particular piece of content in this part of the learning. Okay, this mode and this particular tool would be fantastic for this part of the learning, best, most effective. And then take it to this level, right? I think that's the piece that as instructional designers and solution creators, providers, we need to get better at. And the LMS then just becomes the administrator, right? It's just sort of the platform that can link and touch and transfer and connect data to all of these different elements of our toolbox. So is it a video? Great, we can pull data from that. Is it a virtual reality, fully immersive experience in PlayStation? Yeah, sure, we can connect with that. Is it a 360 video? Yeah, sure, we can connect with that, grab that data, pull that in, you know. Is it an old-fashioned style SCORM course that we haven't updated yet to something different? Yeah, sure, we can pull that in too, you know. We're finally getting to the point where I think we can now begin to truly make decisions instead of saying, hey, we've got one solution or one tool to solve your training problem, you know, and create this thing around it. We now have the ability to look at all these different things and string them together and say, the solution really is multiple tools, multiple media types, you know, and not packaged together, but loosely joined.
Well, I think
that's how I see it.
I think getting back to Marco's point, you know, the reason I'm nodding is I look at the LMSs and to a smaller degree what you're describing, you know, I hearken back to Microsoft Works and the grand success of that product. You know, Microsoft Works was this great, you know, when Microsoft Works first came out, it was a great product. You had just enough word processor, you had just enough spreadsheet, you had just enough database, and it worked. And then they kept building into it and building into it and building into it. And then you had a bunch of things that really were half-assed. You know,
an app
to the point where the last version of Microsoft Works that shipped actually shipped with Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. And that's what's happening to the LMSs. That's what's happening. But I think the same approach, to Brent's point, you know, we try to take that same approach with learning of, all right, we're going to build one course that has to work on any screen and has to work for every person. It has to do all these things, instead of saying, all right, well, how about we use this tool for and again, maybe, like a blended learning analogy. Okay, well, how about we use this tool for this simulation, and we use this tool for this simulation, we use this tool for this simulation, and then we just have a PowerPoint deck for the lecture points, you don't need anything really fancy there, and package that together. We, as an industry, for whatever reason, we can't think that way.
I think the biggest problem with that is, and I think you're right on the money. I mean, that's exactly my point. Exactly. And a lot of the problem is that I don't think enough people in our industry are as tech savvy as they should be. And so they only really go with what they know. And so maybe this goes back to your points in earlier shows about everybody needing to code and to learn how to code. But, I mean, I think people just need to know what's out there, and they need to know what mode is easier. And also you got to look at it too, from a business perspective, right? A lot of companies a lot of people can't get their head around, wait a minute, we're going to buy this tool, this tool, this tool, and this tool to solve this problem. I've got this other guy out here, this other consultant saying, no, you just really need to buy one tool, and then so making the sale and helping people to understand that, you get a better solution when you apply the right tool to the right bit of content, or at the particular moment, or based on content, based on audience, based on environment and context, making an accurate solution. The other bit I wanted to add to this is the idea that a lot of this content is so inexpensive to make, relatively speaking to the past, that why not do it all? I mean, why not make multiple versions of your courses? Because in a lot of cases, it's so damn easy to do. Why not make a text version? Create a video, but then pull the audio out and make it just audio, right? Have a piece of audio, right? Get it transcribed and have just text, and put it up somewhere in a PDF file. So if people need to read it, they can read it. I mean, it's hardly any extra work at all to create these multiple different media elements based on one initial capturing digitally of somebody's ideas or thoughts that, we're leaving a lot on the cutting room floor when we don't utilize the ability to just create a lot of media and let the user decide, let your learner decide, I love like here's the perfect example, and this is just me rambling on, sorry, but think of how cool it is on your Kindle, or what is it? I guess it's Kindle app, where you can buy your Kindle book, and then they'll say, oh, hey, by the way, do you want to also, for $1.99, do you want to buy the audio version of it? And be like, oh, sweet. So I'm driving in my car. I can listen to a chapter of a book. When I get home and want to actually sit down in a chair and read it, I open up the Kindle, and the Kindle says, hey, you listened to this point. Would you like to pick up where you left off listening and read? I'm like, holy crap, yes, of course. This is exactly the way I want life to be. I want to be able to listen when I want to listen. I want to be able to watch when I want to watch. I want to be able to read when I want to read. But I want all of those apps to know where I left off in the previous one if it's the same bit of content.
Funnily enough, there's a neat API available now that can help you do that. Might have heard. I may have mentioned it. I don't know.
Booyah.
No, the 2 points I'll make though.
That's a mic drop right there.
The 2 points I'll make. One is, your earlier point. I think part of it, the L&D industry has got to get over good enough is good enough. That is a cancer in our industry. It is. And there's just no other way to say it.
I have to save that conversation for later.
Well, yeah. But
Yeah.
worth mentioning. The other point I'll make is, and I'm guilty of this too, I think we all are, to your point of, well, why don't you have, if you've got a video, why don't you pull the audio, and why don't you have a transcript or whatever? I think some of that, I think there's some honesty in that one of, 5, 10 years ago, if you sent something out to get a transcript made, that was damned expensive, and God forbid you needed it translated to another language. And so I think there's some bad tastes in a lot of mouths, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm not criticizing anybody. We are all guilty of this at some level. We just never go back to it because we had that really bad experience. So to your point, sometimes we do just have to get over ourselves and say, well, let's take a look at it again. How bad is it now? Because now, I mean, hell, was it you were saying, I think you were telling me you would, you'd do whatever, you'd record notes and then just stick your phone in front of your computer and let Google Translate do the transcript, and then you just go in and clean it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, I think this is what has changed over the years, that people have to shift their thinking and realize that it's the money, the technology has solved a lot of the problems that we had in the past that would make things like that so expensive, right? And now we have, cloud-based LMSs that can actually handle multiple different types of video and media and all that kind of stuff. And we have XAPI to share data across different platforms. And now we have virtual reality. Now we have like multiple, video like this that we can all hang out in and have these conversations, So it's all good. And I need to give a quick time out here real quick. And I had no idea how much time had flown by. No wonder the other two guys had to jump off. We've been at this for like an hour and 15 minutes now. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'm going to have to kick here in a bit.
Yeah, but
worth doing. So just on that, just to jump in, guys.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be a little bit more confrontational in relation to, and I think you both said the same. But L&D they've just got lazy. So it's not about being techie. And to your point about the translation, I'm not saying everybody, but I wonder if L&D people have just got lazy. And then the other one is blended learning piece, Brent. I wonder also in L&D we focused on the wrong outcomes, if we focused on outcomes at all. So we've just focused on and the classic is, isn't it, the outcome is we need to tick a box that somebody has passed this course. That for me is not a learning outcome. But people in L&D will say that's an outcome. That's a learning outcome. They've done the health and safety course, and we've got the tick in the box to say they've done it. There's no learning in that, is there? No. So I don't know.
This is good, and actually, this reminds me. But before you guys jump off, I'm going to share a link. I think I might have shared it yesterday, but there is a Harvard Business Review article that was recently published. It might even be a little old, like a few months, but I mean, it was very damning to the training industry. I mean, it basically called out decades and decades of wasted training dollars in enterprise. I'll share it. Online. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, and I can't find the link, but yeah. But anyways, this goes to your point there exactly, and I think with that, we should call it quits for today, guys.
Glad you did this. Missed this.
You know what? I miss it too. Gosh darn it, I miss you guys. So I'll figure out a better time and something more official, and we'll do this. And actually, oddly enough, Google looks nice, and the audio is working pretty good, and so I'm fine hanging out in this platform.
Yeah, Google looks nice apart from your environment. To me, it looks a bit like you're in some sort of crime scene. I'm not quite sure. The big white sheet behind you is a bit scary.
I know, but other people tell me I look like Al Qaeda hanging up a sheet, and I'm going to behead somebody shortly. So
I thought for a minute there when I first tuned in, I thought, my God, it's David Caruso, CSI Miami.
All right. I'll fix my background. I know. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Guys. See you later.
Cheers.